Hello, everyone, and welcome back to EduGrowth's Launchpad seminar, Voice of the Customer. I hope you had some fantastic discussions in the participation rooms. And now we're going to resume the event for our second part of the event, which will be covering the higher education. So similar as before, we'll have 3 presentations from companies, and we have 2 educators from the higher education, and we'll be having questions and comments afterwards. And then we'll also have the opportunity to go into breakout rooms with those educators and have more fantastic discussions from there on. So without further ado, let's welcome our educators for higher education. I'd love to introduce Bridget Dang, who's the Associate Director for Education Technology at the University of Sydney. And I'd also like to introduce Tom Gifford, who's the Head of Student Recruitment at RMIT University. Welcome, Tom and Bridget. I would love if you can give us 1 to 2 lines and introduce yourselves so our audience can know a bit more about your roles and involvement in EdTech. So maybe if we can start with Tom.
Hi there, my name is Tom Gifford. I look after domestic and international student recruitment at RMIT University. And as well as recruitment, I'm responsible for end-to-end international recruitment. So we've taken an audience approach to the way that we speak to and attract potential international students. So that means that I look after the marketing, recruitment, admissions, sales, and conversion. So really, over the last 2 years in particular, we've kind of really progressed our digital approach to working with international students, both from a marketing and promotion side, but also from a delivery side. So I'm really delighted to be here today and looking forward to the session.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's really great being here at EduGrowth. My name is Bridget and I am from the University of Sydney. I work in the IT department there, looking after the student portfolio of products. So my areas of responsibility is working closely with our strategic partners at the DVCE and DVC operations level to put together a roadmap of the types of technologies and digital tools that the students would be using. So in particular, looking at the student facing types of applications and services include student administration, student life and engagement, and student support areas of work.
Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to have you both. To our audience, you'll have the opportunity to meet with the educators later on in our participate rooms. But before that, let's kick off with the presentations for higher education. So we have 3 presentations. And to kick us off, I would love to introduce Elena Harris from Timetank. Hi, Elena, how are you?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm well, thank you. How's everyone else going today?
I think everyone's doing fantastic in seeing from the participant room. So I can see your presentations on the screen. 3 minutes, the floor is yours.
Terrific, thank you very much. So have you ever found yourself stuck down a rabbit hole of time-consuming administration and wondered, surely someone must have been able to automate this process by now? My name's Elena Harris. I'm the founder of Timetank, a platform that captures, verifies and reports the practical hours tied to a qualification. I have 25 years of higher education experience. I've been a student, a lecturer, an administrator, a researcher, and over those years, I've seen quite a number of things change. But the way that students capture, verify and report their hours has not. Many institutions include practical experience as part of their qualifications. These activities, referred to as work integrated learning, usually comprise of 2 parts: the assessment and the hours the student has worked. The problem is that traditionally recording, monitoring and reporting of those hours has been a manual process that's captured on paper or a series of random spreadsheets. It's a time-consuming burden for administrators and educators, and it results in fairly disparate data. Over 37% of students enrolled in Australian universities in 2017 participated in over 500,000 of these work integrated learning activities. In 2019, 1.6 million students were enrolled across the sector. So the market is big, and the market for work integrated learning is growing. There are some main drivers for this, and one of them comes from students who want to qualify with some experience under their belt, also from industry who want graduates who can hit the ground running, And at the same time, the government has used policy to tie funding to graduate employment outcomes. Also, due to COVID, there's a greater focus on student retention, that is, holding onto the students that universities already have. And over 50% of work integrated learning activities have been off campus. And of course, we're all aware that there is pressure to do more with less, with almost 1 in 5 jobs across the sector being lost due to the impact of COVID. So Timetank was developed to digitise and automate this particular process. In essence, the learner records their hours on their phone, sends it to their supervisor of their work or their project. The supervisor verifies it with a single click, and those hours are updated with the university in real time, providing a full overview of real-time data. It's much more efficient for the university and much more insightful for the student. Timetank's been developed as a standalone system agnostic platform. It's flexible, it can be scaled for use and applied in different contexts. I've kept bumping into this particular issue for many years. I've designed Timetank as a solution that is quicker, more efficient, and focuses away from administration and back to learning, and I'd appreciate any input from the voice of the customer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elena. Moving to our next presentation, we have Tanya Rutherford, who will be presenting Learn, Grow, and Become. Tanya, how are you? You might be on mute. Don't really seem to be hearing you. Tanya, are you there?
I should be right now. Sorry. My internet's a bit.
Yep. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
We can hear you loud and
me?
clear, and your presentation's on screen as well. Yes, we can.
Hear me?
We can hear you, and your presentation's also on screen. So 3 minutes. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay, I think we're having some technical difficulties with Tanya, but we can definitely come back. Moving on to our third presentation, we have Tom O'Connor from AptoNow. How are you, Tom?
Hi, good, Jane. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And again, your presentation is on screen. 3 minutes on the clock. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone, and hi, Tom and Bridget. Thanks for joining. The problem we're focused on at AptoNow is around university room scheduling. So as you would know, this is a fairly resource-intensive process that can deliver suboptimal outcomes for a range of stakeholders across the university. Typically, it takes a sizable team of timetablers with a significant amount of manual effort, around 3 months, to build the university timetable. And there's really 3 issues that we see that we're trying to solve here. One is that seat utilization is typically low. So a seat in a university lecture theatre, based on the extensive client experience we have, is typically only booked about 5% of available time, or sorry, used, not booked. And as a result, universities are spending more on facilities than they need to. So potentially capital will be redeployed to more productive uses rather than building capacity that isn't necessarily needed. Secondly, timetables can be inaccurate and incomplete, requiring manual adjustments, and that can negatively impact the student experience if the timetable needs to shift over time. And thirdly, the timetable can be inflexible. So in semester, it's often difficult and resource intensive to change it in response to issues and opportunities. And I thought it was interesting, Tom, you spoke about how in the marketing space, the student recruitment process has been digitized. I think this is one part of student administration that is very much still a highly manual process, and there's an opportunity to use other technologies from other areas to automate and improve it greatly. Our solution really does 4 things. First of all, it automates the process. So we've built a scheduling algorithm that can produce a complete draft timetable in hours, not months. our solution allows dynamic adjustments. So it allows faculties and schools the freedom to dynamically adjust their timetables in semester and to respond to emerging issues and opportunities. So for example, if the Vice Chancellor wants to book a room at really short notice to give a lecture, within our solution, timetables can be dynamically readjusted to allow that to happen in real time. It allows for a better student experience and allows for more personalized student timetables by using other data sets to model what is happening in terms of attendance. And then finally, we're leveraging our experience working with universities to offer implementation and change support, because we understand that the actual implementation and process transformation is as important as the actual technology. In terms of where we're at, so there's a number of things that we think make us the right team to solve this challenge. So we've got deep experience in higher education. We've worked with operational leaders across many Australian universities. We've got proven capabilities across a range of domains, including in private sector operational improvement. We have an algorithm and IP that's been built. So we have a working prototype, and we're currently looking for partners to actually build to build that prototype with us and live test with students and customers. And we're passionate about improving education. So we think that by strengthening the operational capability of universities, we can help them deliver on their core mission. And we're really passionate about that. That's it.
Thank you so much, Tom, for that presentation. Unfortunately, we're having some technical issues with Tanya's connection, but have no fear. After this discussion, you can speak to her in the participation rooms afterwards. So again, thank you so much to the presenters. Same as before, I would like to introduce back our educators and give them the floor to ask questions, comments, or anything that would you feel like could benefit both companies. So maybe we can start with Bridget.
Thank you very much, both of you. I can certainly appreciate your position as well in pitching your products. I've been there before. It's very nerve-wracking. I don't know where you're from at the moment, but where I'm from, the rain is pouring, and so there's probably lots of distractions for you. I know that teachers are on strike today as well, so thanks very much for your efforts there. Certainly appreciated. Probably one of the key things that I had in mind when I was listening to the presentation was trying to think through from my side and how I assess different technologies and what fits for my organization. One of the key drivers for me is how they integrate well within my suite of technology. So, in the instance of curriculum technology, for example, we've got a very strong suite of current solutions that we use that's integrated quite well across our landscape, because it gives us the type of data that we need, and it kind of takes the student along that journey in a way that doesn't distract them, I guess, in different types of experiences or different tools. So I guess the question for me is, have you thought about, for both of you, have you thought about how your product will be looking to integrate with a university environment in a way that's scalable and in a way that's also protected as well, because cybersecurity is a huge theme for us at the moment. Everything that we do and take on, it has a lot of assessment and rigor around the cyber elements. So I might just start there.
Do you want to tackle it first, Alana? Or?
Sure, I'll go first. Thank you for that, Bridget. It's something that I have been giving consideration to. I've worked in a number of universities, so I understand that each of them has their own complex fabric in terms of systems and technology. I started as I'm actually a lecturer, so I start from the lecturer and student perspective and start sort of with how does this work with an LMS. And I'm at the stage, I'm at the early stage where I've got my MVP and am about to give it take it for a test drive. And in fact, that is one of the areas that I want to look at, is interrogating how does this fit, and where are those pain points? In terms of security, that's something that I'm particularly conscious of, and that's perhaps delayed my my MVP, because I've been really clear that I want to make sure that all security measures are in place, because I understand from an administrative position that you don't want to take on anything that puts student data at risk. All the data in my system is kept on shore, and I've put in a number of ironing out the last of the security bugs are going to be ironed out, but I'm not sure exactly, specifically, what levels are required, and that's perhaps a question I can ask when I run it in my institute and my pilot. So thank you. That's an insightful question for me to ask. Tom?
Yeah, thank you. Look, Bridget, I think it's similar to Alana. I think it's a great question. We think it's really important to fit seamlessly into the suite of other technologies this needs to interface with. So there's a number of integrations which are really important. Current solutions often don't integrate for scheduling and timetabling, often don't integrate with the curriculum management system. And often a lot of the data that the timetable needs to draw in is actually in the curriculum management system already. So, the setup, configuration, size, length of teaching activities, and we think we can actually reduce administrative effort from academics by actually integrating into the curriculum system and preloading a lot of that data. Some universities may already do that, but we know of others that certainly collect that data twice. The second thing is around things like the integrating into things like the LMS is another benefit, we think. So being able to, from an academic perspective, being able to have the LMS integrated with the timetabling function, we think would be really valuable. And there's other integrations that are obviously important. So there's facilities and property integrations with the facilities register, which needs to integrate with the actual timetabling engine, with the student management system. So yeah, completely agree. Those integrations are really important, and also just building really robust APIs that can integrate with other aspects of the university, so that it is, I guess, playing nice with those other technologies. I think is really important from a university technologist perspective.
Thanks so much for that, Tom. Passing on to Tom Gifford from RMIT for your comments and questions.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd also like to really thank Alina and Tom for their presentations. It's always really interesting from my perspective to hear from people like yourselves who have that real kind of technical and digital expertise, because a lot of the work that myself and my team do is very much that student facing piece. And I think two of the solutions that you've pitched today really kind of resonate quite well. I think they're issues that certainly at RMIT we face, particularly both pitches. I think the first pitch is something that I think many universities have struggled with, and it's been quite prominent in the news about how institutions can capture casual payment for staff, and as a team we use casual staff, and it's something that we use quite an old-fashioned model in terms of how we record that. And I think, Tom, your pitch in particular was quite interesting to myself, particularly in the space where we talk to and we interact with particularly postgraduate domestic students, where actually timetabling is actually, if done well, can be a way that we can actually attract students, because people that are that mature age, postgraduate level, often timetabling and the way a course looks to them and how it's taught and when it's taught is a key driver in terms of that decision that they're making. Cybersecurity is also really important to RMIT. We had an incident earlier this year which caused some large issues for the university, so that's kind of front and center for us. I guess mine is more of a general question than Bridget's, and mine would be just really a question about how you would both kind of work with a large organization and what challenges you would see. And the reason I ask that is we've worked with a small number of small platforms, and the advantage that we've seen has been that ability to support us and being able to move quickly and be nimble, whereas we're quite a large university. So it's more of a general question in terms of how do you see that interaction between a small, nimble organization like yourselves and a larger one?
Yeah, I might go first this time, Alana, and you can follow up.
Please
So,
do.
yeah, I think it's a good question, Tom. In terms of large organization, I think making sure there's the right resources on the client side. So, ensuring that, as in on your side, I think if you're going to make a step change in timetabling improvement, I think it's it requires probably some sort of project manager or team member on your side to actually run that process. And I think making sure that the mobilization requirements on your side and the resourcing requirements are clear and are there. I think we've all seen the examples of IT transformations gone wrong, and none of us want to revisit those. So I think that's one thing I say. I think, as you say, the benefit of being small and nimble is really valuable. Partly, our company is in early stages, so we want to find one or two anchor customers who we can actually go on the journey with. We have some investment that in the company, but we think the ability to really bring our resources to a university and work with them to build out the key features over time can build then a solution that's replicable and scalable. Because we think in the timetabling space and kind of resource scheduling more broadly, there's a lot of opportunity. So we want to be able to work with someone who's got a vision for what they want in that space and who we can partner with. In terms of postgraduate domestic students, just quickly on that, I think that's a really interesting point. One of the things we want to do is incorporate student preference and market research to actually be able to help timetabling teams, help provide recommendations to timetabling teams on and optimize for student preferences. I think something that that often currently just comes straight from faculties or schools saying, I want it to be this time or this time. But if timetabling teams can have access to independent research and data sets around student preferences, I think that's a potential real value add.
Thank you.
So look, I think in dealing with particularly applied learning, work integrated learning, practical hours, anything like that related to students, like so many things in the higher ed space, it depends. And I think the key is going to be flexibility. In my experience, wearing a number of different hats, it might be that you work with the faculty, and sometimes the coordinated activities are done through that faculty. They might be done at a lecturer level. They might be done across a school. So it's going to depend on the structure and the setup, I guess, of the university. So having that flexibility is, I think, going to be key to being able to expand. Certainly where I'm piloting it, it's within a small school, a small cohort within a small school, but with the opportunity to look at other disciplines and other verticals, as they're referred to in my university space, to see how that unfolds. And because I've found in my experience, that it is rare to see how an application unfolds in one discipline, in one faculty, then it rarely unfolds the same way in another faculty, and that presents, the challenges. It's one of the challenges. You do have, faculty champions who bring something, introduce a platform or an initiative, and it might not go beyond that faculty. And then sometimes you have IT who are trying to implement something system-wide, and I think it's already been commented that sometimes that can go a little bit pear-shaped. But even if it goes well, it can also meet resistance from some faculty. So I think being mindful of those structures and going into it with your eyes wide open is going to be critical.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alana and Tom, for your fantastic presentations. Please do stick around for the participation rooms, because I know there are many audience members who are itching to ask more questions about your companies. So again, thank you so much to our presenters for sharing their companies today. To our educators, we actually have a few questions from the audience members, which I'd love to share and get your takes on. So a question that we have is, schools have de facto privacy standards via the Department of Education in each state. Is there a similar standard for the higher ed sector? So maybe if I can pass it on to Bridget, and then we can go to you, Tom.
Yeah, we certainly do have what we call, I guess, the terms and the conditions more broadly, that is probably very similar to the schools. It's managed through our Office of General Counsel. So that's the privacy considerations. It's a little bit different from the cyber considerations. Cyber is more on a local level around the systems and the environments, whereas student, privacy and student information, for example, is probably very similar to the standards that schools and the Departments of Education has.
Great. Over to you, Tom, for that question.
Yeah, I guess a similar answer, really. I guess just something that we're also really conscious of, particularly looking after records from students from various other countries outside of Australia. We have to make sure that we obviously comply with European legislation and also other Asian country legislation as well. So because we have the records of students from those countries and our agent network and partners, we have to really ensure that we're not just meeting some of the Australian privacy standards, but we're also meeting other standards which are often stricter as well.
Thanks so much for that, Tom. We actually have one more final question that for Bridget. So the question is, do you think EdTech startups pitching to you should include the tech stack integration into their decks?
Not necessarily their tech stack integration, but what would have been good to see, because all universities do this, is to see what they're comparing their solution to in the top market players. So it'd be good for me to see, has there been any assessment? What are their differentiators from the big market players in terms of work integrated learning, for example? We do have a big application that we use. It'd be good to know what the differentiators are for there. Same with curriculum timetabling as well. So it's a little bit more of the market research would have been good to kind of see how they've progressed with selling their pitch and their technology.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much to our educators and companies that presented so brilliantly today. To our companies, it's a big step to present your idea in front of our fantastic educators. So, that's a very admirable thing that we saw today. And we also covered a very exciting and insightful topic in the voice of the customer. Now, again, as previously, this is now your time to meet with educators from higher ed. On the left side of your screen, there is a participate button, and you can access that and meet with our educators in each room and also speak to the other participants around higher education and the different companies that were presented. That also draws an end to today's formal program. Again, I would like to thank our educators and companies for their contribution, and also to the AWS team for their support as partners for the entirety of this program. That ends our Launchpad Seminars program for 2021. And thank you everybody for joining us. If you joined us today or if you joined us all throughout, massive thank you to you, and have a great evening, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the participation rooms.